Tracking Josh's progress in bonsai has been pretty monumental to witness. He's learned how to select material, he's learned how to initially clean and do some of the very fundamental pruning, but now we get into the nuts and bolts of the structural wiring process. Now this is the moment that we get to set the shape, and we're going to start to talk about and teach Josh the fundamental concepts behind structural wire and some of the nuances that allow him to have success. And so when we talk about structural wire, we're talking about wires that either shape the trunk, the structure of the tree, or the branches that emerge from the trunk. These are the primary branches of the tree. And so as we take a look at this, you'll notice that a lot of the big, thick branches that come from the trunk of the tree have much thicker wire on them. And this is really setting the angles of the design so that we have that position in place to be able to create independent pads. These smaller branches on that wire, that's a whole different world, right? That's secondary, tertiary wire. We will get there. So we're really looking at defining the trunk line and defining the shape of those branches that emerge from the trunk as our structural wire practice. Each of these turns has the same angle. Ideal angle for structural wire, 55, 60 degrees. If we just go from the top of one wire to another and we gauge that spacing, no matter what turn exists in that branch, is equivalent across each turn. The last thing that you'll notice is that there's a really nice contact between the wire and the branch. There's not any spaces. Now what you'll also notice is that that wire isn't really constricting the growth of the branch. So to get that contact, we're not cranking that wire onto the branch.
So it's been a couple of months now since we actually picked up the trees from the nursery, and I've been excited to get into styling the trees. So finally being able to actually dig into the design of the trees a little bit more after finding the front on the previous episode. I'm excited to get my hands back on my trees and really start figuring out what the design is going to look like.
It's time to present you with your wiring tools.
Nice.
Pair of pliers, really good pair of wire cutters, and your first set of perfectly annealed, beautiful copper wire. These are gauges 18 through 6. 18, 16, 14, 12, 10, 6. These gauges are the best set for being able to approach bonsai when we first start to learn how to wire. So I've prepared a little bit of an exercise here. I've got a branch that I've removed all of the needles off of, and I've got a clamp here. And this is basically how I start everybody off learning how to wire. We've got to be able to apply a gauge of wire that allows us to hold any movement we put into that. Some trees are harder than others, and a harder wood, a more dense vascular fiber, will demand a thicker wire in order to be able to hold it where we move it. And then the length, the longer that branch is, the thicker the wire we need to utilize, because we have a lot of leverage on that length of the branch, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and give myself a length of wire that is a little bit more than the length of the branch, an extra 15, 20%. In structural wire, we want a little bit of a longer wire because we need the leverage of that handle to be able to apply it and use leverage to make sure that that application is smooth and really clean. So as I start to make this turn, I'm looking at achieving same angle on every turn. When I'm wiring, particularly in the application of structural wire, moving your hand in definitive planes. Notice I move towards you, down, towards me, up, towards you, down, towards me, up. And notice each time that I'm making that turn, I'm stepping my fingers down to maintain that contact. Towards you, down, towards me, up. Towards you, down, towards me, up. Okay, this starts to give us that layout that we're looking for. Same angle, same spacing, and no gaps is really what we're striving for in the structural wire application. So I'm going to be holding here, I'm going to be bending down, okay? And notice how when I held there, that wire stretched, worked hardened, and held that bend, okay? This is the function of structural wire. But after that first movement down, we always have to bring the branches back up towards the light. Having that last turn across the bottom allows us to bring that piece up. Trees always growing towards light, the desire for those to photosynthesize creates that strength growing upwards. If we have that across the bottom, we can always mimic that natural behavior of the tree. That's the functional aspect of why we ended across the bottom of the branch.
Cool.
Okay?
Yeah, got it.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Where would I be without you?
Let me just shift that out of the way so that you can conveniently access those tools.
I know it's hard to not help me because I'm so helpless, but I got this, Ryan.
I know, I got faith. I got a lot of faith.
Thanks.
Believe in Josh.
Believe in me. Oh.
There it is.
Can I redo that?
You can try.
That didn't do anything.
How'd that go? How'd that go for you?
That didn't work. This is a job, Ryan.
It's almost like some people have to really focus on this for a profession to do it well, right?
Yeah.
I think that one of the biggest mistakes that beginners make is they're afraid to do, right? Okay, I applied the wire.
Right.
Holy cow, that was, and I've been there. I was there when I was 12 years old, and that never stopped until I was wiring trees daily during my apprenticeship. But when we do get to the tree, the goal of this exercise is by the time you get there, we have some of that worked out so that the tree doesn't become the experimentation point for all of those errors.
Yeah.
It will be regardless because you're not going to be an expert at wiring. But just giving you some of those thoughts to be considering as you're doing this kind of bending is gonna assist in you doing this better.
Yeah, this has been really helpful because one of the things that I was thinking before diving into this was I've made a kind of connection with the trees that I picked out. I don't want to destroy them. I like being able to learn on a dead branch before diving into, living tree material.
Imagine trying to learn everything that you're learning here on that tree.
Yeah.
Impossible. Big movement.
Oh. I was just like, I'm gonna push it till something happens.
Good, you gotta know.
Yeah.
You've gotta know, you've gotta break these branches. You have to.
Yeah.
It's a dead branch. It doesn't matter.
I know.
This is not gonna make it. Unfortunately, this is not gonna survive this operation. So you might as well figure out, what does it feel like to break a branch? What happened right before you broke it? The distribution of force is across so much tissue here. The distribution of force is across just a very minimal area here. And that's why that broke and that didn't.
Got it. All right, well, I also want to point out that branches break in the wild all the time. And I think this is very natural.
Yeah, and chances are, if you want to know the truth, if there were needles on that kind of a break would absolutely survive.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 50%, not a problem.
Through actually going through this process with dead branches, it's reducing a lot of the anxiety I have about actually touching the trees, so I don't feel as bad about taking my time.
Right.
I actually feel really good about it.
The most defeating thing about bonsai is having a tree that you found at the nursery and you love, and you're like, I can't wait to make this a good bonsai, and then destroying it and it dying, struggling, or looking terrible, and then you're like, well, hearing that this is empowering you to feel more confident, that means that your success in bonsai is going to grow as a result of this. This is a very effective way to enter the wiring process. You've gone through the paces, we've discussed the fundamentals of structural wiring. The time has come, my friend. You're gonna wire the trunk, and you're gonna wire all of the branches that originate from the trunk. This is setting structure, focus, same angle, same spacing, no gaps in every coil of the wire. Get to it, and then let's take a look at it when you're done.
Okay, I'm already just like, oh God, because I was practicing upstairs and you weren't around, and I was like, I think this is the right gauge to practice with this size.
Right. Here's the beautiful thing about your first tree. You know it's gonna be riddled with mistakes. Have fun, enjoy it, learn from the process, focus on the fundamentals, and this tree is going to carry with it all of your marks of growth. So this first iteration is gonna be something that you're gonna remember forever. The tree is gonna improve regardless of what happens today. There's no pressure. Just really dig into the wiring process and start to learn and explore.
I'm trying, dude.
I'm really trying. Look at that gap though.
Messed it up real hard, and now I'm gonna do a hard reset here and cut this wire off and try again. Yeah! Dude, I think I did it. I probably put it on too tight though. Let's put some movement into this.
Making professional sounds. Dude, I don't know. What do I do there? I don't know.
I want to be able to make confident decisions that lead me to a tree that I envision, but I honestly don't know if I'm even putting the wire on correctly in order to have any kind of vision become a reality. So.
Not too bad.
All right, I see structural wire on it. How'd it go?
It went okay, I think. There were some struggles along the way, but I definitely had some issues with getting the right angle on the trunk wire, and then some big issues with pairing the branches. When I move one, the other one's moving along with it.
Right. Let's just take a look. Let's break it down one at a time. In any of these junctions where we've got more than one branch emerging from the trunk, we need to take off all the branches except for the one that we want to keep, and it'll make your structural wiring far easier. It'll also prevent structural flaws from forming, okay? When we set this initial wire on the trunk, we've got to hit that 55, 60-degree angle. When we go past that, we start to create a really big distance between the holding points of the wire, and that's what caused the spacing. This wire on the trunk also sets you up for all of your structural wire on the branches that emerge from the trunk. And so when we get the correct angle here, we're also able to pair these branches here. And when we pair these branches here, we want to be having at least one full revolution of wire around the trunk following that structural to pair one branch to another, getting that revolution, okay? Last piece of the puzzle. Do we want to lower the branches or do we want to raise the branches? Traditional Japanese bonsai, almost always we have lowered branches. When we lower a branch structurally, we have to approach it from the top of the shoulder. When we raise a branch, we have to approach it from the bottom of the shoulder, and the shoulder being this connection point of the branch to the trunk. So when we start to think about that, that guides how we put the wire onto the shoulder of the branch. It starts to help us link branches that exist beyond a full revolution around the trunk.
I think it'd be really helpful if you just kind of showed me how you would wire this tree.
Yeah, so let's just sort of take it apart and put it back together.
All right, sweet. I almost feel relief for this tree after I worked on it. Because like watching you strip it away felt like you were breaking it out of chains.
Freeing it.
Yeah, and like putting it into like a good position. But anyway, yeah, it's very helpful for me to see how you linked the branches right off of the trunk together with the wire.
And the choices for the combinations, right? These are things that we build. But understanding to lower, we enter the top, to raise, we enter the bottom, same angle, same spacing, no gaps, applies to every wire we put on the tree. And then when we shape that tree, those branches exist where they occur, right? This is on the left side of the tree, this branch exists on the left side of the tree. This is on the right side of the tree, that branch will always exist on the right side of the tree. These are the fundamental aspects of structural setting. Structural wiring is this meshing of this challenging application and this beautiful ability to manipulate the shape of the tree. You've learned how to apply it. Now we just have to practice with it and continue to build our skills. We're gonna move into the repotting process of this tree, taking advantage of the seasonal opportunity to work the roots, And then we're gonna come back and show you the secondary, tertiary wiring that builds on that foundation you've set and really maximizes the aesthetic of the tree. Stay tuned, build your skills, and we look forward to continuing the process with you in the journey of creating bonsai. Bam.